Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to watch episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a hopefully satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they're introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. Now, for reference, we will only be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And before we start, I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all of this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. With that, let's jump into another epic story.
39 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
JT Thomas, a 24-year-old cattle rancher from Mobile, Alabama, was a castaway and the eventual winner of Survivor's 18th season, Survivor Tocantins. JT changed Survivor forever when he played the first ever perfect game of Survivor. No one cast a vote against him, and everyone voted for him to win it all. To this day, you can count how many players have pulled this off on one hand. So how did JT pioneer what was thought to be unthinkable at the time? Let's find out. We start off Survivor Tocantins with JT on Jalapao, the red tribe. The black tribe is Timbira. So the season starts off with Jeff saying, let's play a fun game. It's called You Get to Hike 4 Hours to Camp, but before you do that, you need to vote for someone to not join you on this journey. The older lady, Sandy, is voted for by the Jalapao tribe, and she is mad.
Sandy, you can't be happy about this.
I'm pissed. I am so pissed. Obviously, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
As it turns out, the players voted out actually get a helicopter ride to camp instead of having to trek the 4 hours. But while on that hike, we quickly learn who JT is while simultaneously seeing him help his tribe read a compass correctly.
I'm JT, I'm 24 years old, and I'm from Sampson, Alabama. I manage a Black Angus cattle ranch. I'm in hot weather every day, so I'm accustomed to the weather and mosquitoes, things of that nature. I know I'm going to be good at catching fish, and I know I'm going to be good at providing, but that'll also put me out in front of everybody else as a threat eventually. So the biggest challenge for me is going to be fitting in with the people.
Already we see JT taking a leadership role and being the smartest one there. Steven says that his first impression of JT is a net negative for him because he is pessimistic that these two will ever be able to work together moving forward.
When I saw at least one sort of good old-fashioned Southern boy, I thought, I'm a little bit screwed. Don't really see us connecting on too many levels. I don't know how much he's gonna like the anxious New York Jew.
Not much else is shown of JT prior to the immunity challenge, but due to no fault of his own, they lose, and now they have to vote someone out. Back at camp, Carolina is whining a lot about how the shelter isn't finished yet, and mind you, she was the weakest one in the challenge by far. JT says if she wants the shelter done, then he has a suggestion.
Carolyn starts talking about is how we need to finish stuff around camp.
She's more than welcome to take her ass and finish the shelter herself.
At Tribal Council, Carolina is voted out in a 7-1 landslide.
Carolina, the tribe has spoken.
And that is it for the premiere of Survivor Tocantins. A lot of events took place this episode, and yet despite that, the show still carved out time for us to get to know who JT is and see him leading his tribe, not only on the trek, but at camp building the shelter, and he was the strongest one in the challenge. With how much talk there is at Jalapao about voting out tribe members who are not going to help them win immunity challenges, which is why Carolina was sent home, JT is not in any immediate danger. Episode 2 begins with a revelation. Taj is married to Heisman Trophy winner and former NFL running back Eddie George, who played in the Super Bowl for the Titans. Pretty much everyone knows who he is, except for Steven. JT is blown away and realizes that this is great for him since now others will realize that Taj does not need the $1 million and the title of sole survivor.
I've got a completely different outlook on Taj. Her husband's a very famous football player. So, yeah, she's probably got a lot more money than I do. I hate to judge anybody by how much money they have, but I know I definitely need the $1 million more than Taj does.
It is time for the immunity challenge, and while JT does an epic fake out to get a point for his tribe, it all comes down to the last showdown, and... After that epic winning shot by Steven, back at camp we learn that JT has taken the leadership role at Jalapao, and what Steven said in episode 1 has turned out to not be true at all, for the better.
JT has definitely emerged as our tribe leader, and honestly I'm thrilled to be out here with him. He's like no one I would have ever met back at home, and I think we're getting to know each other, which I thought is sort of surprising because he's the Alabama country boy. He is Tom Sawyer, and I am the angsty city boy. He might just be seducing me with his pretty country ways, but I'm smitten.
It's nice seeing Steven being willing to change his mind on someone when he was originally pessimistic about them. We move on to episode 3 where Jalapao is out fishing utilizing the gear they won at that previous challenge, and we see Steven catch a fish.
This is maybe the first fish I've ever caught.
Oh, it is. Good.
The cut from Steven catching a small fish to JT catching a bigger one is one of those hint editing moments from the storytellers. Anyways, the next morning, everyone slept pretty well, especially Sandy. She is, well, keep in mind that what she says here is while she is staring directly at JT.
I know I'm a sex kid this morning. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
Well then, at the immunity challenge, the tribes have to put together this large staircase puzzle, and JT leads Jalapao on how to do it, and...
JT's across, Spencer's across, Jalapao wins immunity!
Episode 4 begins with a reward challenge that sees 3 players from each tribe having to shoulder a bunch of weight put on by the other team, and as of this time, Rupert from season 7 holds the record for most weight held. So here with JT...
Attaboy, Jet, attaboy, Jet.
Yeah, JT.
Strongest man alive. Yeah, JT.
JT drops out after holding 220 pounds, tying Rupert's record from the Pearl Islands.
Due in part to that Herculean effort, Jalapao wins reward, and their reward has JT and Joe getting to go to the Timbira tribe's camp to steal 2 items of their choosing. JT debates on taking both bags of beans, but is worried that if he does this, then a tribe swap would inevitably happen, and then he would force to be on Timbira with no food.
I think it's a very smart idea not to take both sacks of beans because you have to look forward in this game. There could be a switch at any time. And if I was to end up over there on the Timbira tribe with no beans because I just stole both sacks, I'd be pissed.
Upon arriving back at Jalapao, pretty much everyone understands the decision made except Sandy. She thinks he was dumb to not take all of their food. But then again, Sandy has been painted as crazy since the season first began, so what she says here doesn't hold a lot of credibility. Jalapao goes on to lose immunity, so back at camp, the scrambling begins. Who will go next? What is important for us is seeing how JT and Steven being depicted as the decision makers for their tribe, and they're debating between Sandy and Sydney. At Tribal Council, JT is under fire because apparently him and Sydney have been flirting, but Steven has JT's back when he says that, I know JT and Sydney have been flirting, but you should really look at Joe and Sydney because they're on a whole other level.
First of all, I should say that the big flirty relationship has not been mentioned yet, which is between Sydney and Joe. They flirt maybe a little more than JT and Sydney flirt.
And it is true that we did see Sydney scratching JT's back earlier, but her and Joe are on a whole other level of flirtation. But that is all not as important as Sandy being voted out in a 5-1 vote.
Sandy, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 5 begins with Jalapao winning at the reward challenge, which comes with a lot of good food and also letters from home. This is a big moment for JT as we learn something important about his home life.
My mom's only told me she loves me like 3 times my whole life.
Is that it there?
She told me to sing.
I almost started crying, so let's try.
Yeah, I almost lost it there.
Back at camp, we learn a little bit about Spencer, namely that he is gay and he is hiding this from his tribe because he believes that people like JT would judge him based on the stereotype of a country boy that JT fits into. What Spencer doesn't know is that you really shouldn't judge JT by the cover, as Steven has learned so far. At the immunity challenge, JT goes beast mode. The Wayne tribe needs 5 points to snag immunity, and JT scores 4 of these points all by himself for Jalapao. He only needs one other person on Jalapao to score 1 point to win it all. However, Taj lets him down by not really defending Brendan at all, and Spencer continually disappoints as well as he allows Timbira to come back into the game and tie it up. But as JT goes to score yet another point, this happens.
JT snags another one for Jalapao. JT has lost a tooth.
JT!
Wait, JT, did you just throw it?
Yeah.
For the first time ever in the history of Survivor, a point was scored while losing a tooth?
But remember when I said Spencer let JT down earlier? Well, it is so bad that Timbira does end up winning immunity due to it, and JT wants Spencer gone next.
I'm doing everything I can to win. I mean, broke the back half of my front tooth off, but it just seemed like some people wasn't giving it all. I don't want to get rid of anyone, but it's got to be Spencer.
In a bold move prior to tribal council, Spencer asks JT who does he want voted out next, and JT says he has 2 options, one of them including...
Where do you think should go?
I don't know.
You can tell me?
I think you or Taj.
If JT didn't have control of his tribe socially, that could have been his downfall, but he does, and Spencer is gone in a 5-1 vote.
Spencer, tribe has spoken. Time for you to go, my guys.
Episode 6 is a recap episode that has no bearing on the main story, so we move on to episode 7 where JT says he hasn't lied to anyone on Jalapao all game. And heck, he sure hopes no one on Jalapao is lying to him right now either. After all, it is hard for him to be mean to people.
Hopefully everyone's got a good outlook on me. I am a country boy, you know, and it's hard for me to be mean to people.
Depending on your definition of mean, that fight with Spencer and then saying to his face that he could be gone next may be mean, but it all depends on your perspective. However, after JT says he hopes no one is lying to him, we then cut immediately to Taj and Steven, where Taj wants to tell JT about the idol she found, but Steven fears her doing this might make a connection between them that no longer needs him. So he tells her, no, you shouldn't do that, but sells it as something that helps her instead.
I'm gonna tell JT I do have the idol.
JT?
Yeah.
So what does telling him about it accomplish? Taj came and said, I want to tell JT about the idol. Until JT knows, I'm basically controlling the information flow between Taj and JT. And to the extent possible, I want to remain that bridge. Because if they connect, you know, I might become a less essential part of the loop.
We then see Jalapao losing reward, and we hear from JT that while losing reward sucks, it isn't as important to him as the next immunity challenge, because if his calculations are correct, the next episode will be the merge, and if they lose immunity here, Jalapao would enter the merge down in numbers instead of being tied. Back at camp, Taj and Steven are making a fake idol to trick Joe, and when Taj made the fake idol, she used the real one as inspiration, but when she went to rehide that real one, she didn't do a very good job, as JT accidentally stumbles upon it and says, "Hey Steven, look what I found," and Steven completely botches his reaction.
I just walked over and picked up the bag. And I looked at it and I said, damn, there's a immunity idol.
I know, it's right there. When JT found the idol, I was thinking, what the heck do I say? So I said, I know. And, you know, I don't think I had the appropriate amount of shock on my face.
Thankfully, JT doesn't call Steven out for saying, I know, because JT could have asked why Steven knew and didn't tell him. Steven tells Taj to go for it and tell him, which she does, and this actually results in JT reacting pretty well and them all agreeing to be the final 3.
We're going to the merge.
We're going to the merge, we're going to the end.
Yeah, we're going to the end.
At the immunity challenge, this is do or die for JT. He knows that they need to win to help their merge chances, so once again he takes the leadership role and puts himself in the spot to slingshot the 3 tiles together puzzle pieces. However, Tyson on Timbira does a better job and gives his tribe a comfortable head start, and when everyone notices that JT is now falling behind, Tyson offers him a bit of a sarcastic encouragement.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, I think I got it, Joe. I'll come over and do it if you want.
That lead Tyson gave Timbira was crucial, as Jalapao goes on to lose immunity in large part thanks to JT. JT. Back at camp, JT says this really sucks because he was planning on winning this whole game, and now he fears he can't do that with them potentially entering the merge down 4-6. He is then approached by Joe and Sydney to vote out Taj, but JT has no desire to do that to her. So at Tribal Council, Sydney is voted out instead in a 3-2 vote.
Sydney, tribe has spoken.
Episode 8 starts and the tribe is feeling downtrodden. If a merge were to happen, they are struggling since Timbira holds a 6-4 lead over them. It is made even worse when observing Joe's knee and seeing how swollen and red it really is.
How hot it is.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah.
It was all the way out here yesterday, and now it's just right there.
As it turns out, if you recall back in episode 5 when I said Joe injured his knee, since then it has gotten infected and pretty gross. However, Jalapal then gets tree mail that sounds a lot like yet another reward challenge, but Steven thinks it might be something else.
I think it's a merge.
I think it's a reward challenge.
Let's take bets. I'll eat your parts of the feast if it's a merge.
No, let's just win, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, we'll win.
Sure enough, Steven is correct, and the merge does indeed happen with a massive feast to go along with it.
Our biggest hope was that today was the merge feast. Less the merge than the merge feast. Jalapal is freaking hungry.
Sure enough, just like JT feared, with the merge happening now, it means that Jalapal is down 4-6, and it doesn't look great when you consider one of their members has a badly injured knee. But a vote is a vote. While everyone is celebrating and feasting, JT asks everyone what do they do for a living.
So everybody's got these history secrets and stuff. I don't know nothing. I'm a poor cattle farmer.
And you're a rocket scientist, though.
Yeah, and a rocket scientist.
I show that because he is planting the seeds of being someone who doesn't have money, which will undoubtedly make a difference if he were sitting at the final 2, maybe even next to Taj. But we move on as the tribe is now named Forza, a misspelled Portuguese word that Coach suggested, and upon arriving at the old Timbira camp, the new Forza camp, JT is blown away.
Now we're walking into the old Timbira camp, and first of all, we come up to a little doghouse shelter. And I'm like, what is this? You know, I mean, I don't know how it was still standing.
I want to preface everything that is about to happen over these next 2 episodes with you knowing that this is all super crucial. JT charmed Jalapal's pants off, and he will be quickly charming all of the old Timbira as well. Everyone who will be on the jury is still in this game right now, and we are about to hear from them all. First, let's start with Coach, who says he loves JT and definitely wants to work with him.
I knew the first time that I looked at JT. I saw the cowboy boots, open, honest face, and I said to myself, he is a good old boy. We're kindred spirits. We both love the outdoors. I think that we're both warriors.
Remember when previously JT said he hadn't lied to any Jalapal members? Well, he will pretty much stick true to that. But when it comes to the old Timbira, all bets are off. Right away, Coach asks JT if Taj has the hidden immunity idol, which obviously he does know about, but he says,
So you swear to me that Taj does not have it?
I don't know if she's got it or not. If she does, there's 2 idols. I've seen cracks right away. I had some ideas before there ever was a merge. It's hard to keep 6 people from different walks of life to stick together when they hate each other.
But as it turns out, the old Timbira is not as close-knit as Jalapal suspected. In fact, there is a clear divide in the group, with Coach, Tyson, and Debbie wanting to work with JT to vote out Brendan, Sierra, and Aaron.
I want you to think about an alliance with Steven and JT. Stop.
Yeah, really, I think he underestimates basically everybody else. We've definitely found inroads into Timbira. This is clearly a very fractured tribe because there's no strong bonds and sense of place. So there's a lot of power dynamics at play that are very easy to exploit.
The next morning, we see JT fishing with Tyson, and he is pleasantly surprised at how well he connects with him, which is then followed by Tyson giving him a hug, something rarely, if ever, seen by Tyson. We then cut to Tyson talking to Debbie, and immediately Tyson says, I trust JT. He's a good dude. That is a straight shooter. We can trust him, no problem. Which then leads to Debbie saying, yeah, you know what? I like JT and Steven as well.
Coach talked to JT last night, really good.
Okay.
JT's a straight shooter, good guy.
I like JT and Steven
And
both.
they're both
Straight shooters.
As mentioned before, Brendan is the target by the old Timbira, and heck, Jalapal doesn't really care who goes as long as it isn't them. All of the planning to get Brendan out is for naught though, as Joe is medevaced because of his leg injury, and Jalapal is now down 6-3.
He can't continue.
What?
They said the risk of him staying longer was too serious,
that if they left him longer in the game, that this could get worse.
We then move on to episode 9, which sees JT talking to Aaron in the same spot he talked to Coach and Tyson, and while with Aaron, she says multiple times that she feels very much burned by the old Timbira and doesn't like them at all, and she is essentially a free agent. Wherever the majority of the votes are going, that's who she's going to vote with. She even says multiple times that she likes Jalapao more than Timbira, and it isn't even close. At the reward challenge, everyone is split up into 3 groups, but the group with JT, Brendan, and Debbie wins. So with that, they get to go on a white water rafting adventure. JT says this is great because he has never done this before in his entire life, and then we hear from Brendan.
The reward was so much fun. The pure joy that was on JT's face, to see how much he just soaks it up and appreciates it. What a great soul. It's so sincere, it's so real, like all qualities that you want in people that surround you, or at least I do.
So clearly Brendan is falling a bit in love with JT, but by the time they are done with their trip, I kid you not, Brendan wants to lose the game and help JT get to the final 2 and win instead. This is not hyperbolic at all, and this is a first in the history of Survivor.
I always kind of define winning in a lot of my life of saying, like, I'm gonna be number 1. If I take JT in the finals with me, he's gonna beat me. I know it's crazy, but for me, winning in this game is about getting to an outcome at the end of the game, which is gonna satisfy me. If he wins it, that's like me winning this game. How do I get him to the finals? I don't know. This is the next step I need to wrap my head around. I sat in that shelter and did not sleep at all, just running through all the different scenarios about how do I get JT to the finals.
Wow, who doesn't love JT at this point? Seriously. I guess Sierra hasn't said anything yet, but then we cut to Brendan talking to Sierra about JT, and what do you know?
We had the awesome time. He's such a good dude. Debbie had such a good time with him.
He's one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
That is now every single person of the old Timbira already falling head over heels for JT, except for Erin. She simply said she liked him and the rest of Jalapao more than her old tribe. We heard Steven say he was smitten with JT in the pre-merge, and heck, they are like peanut butter and jelly with how they go hand in hand, so it could be argued that maybe Taj is the only one left who has not blatantly said she loves JT. But speaking of that,
JT hasn't got to put back here to save you. He's such a good dude.
I know, he is. I love him to death, and I don't want him to go.
No, I agree.
Now would be the best time to run for president, JT. You have serious momentum on your side. Despite it being days later and everyone having more time to think, the plan has evolved, but the end result is unchanged. Vote out Brendan, but split the votes on Sierra just in case he plays the idol.
I've already got it set up so 4 votes go to Brendan, 3 votes go to Sierra. If Brendan gets wind of it, uses his idol, Sierra's gone, Brendan's gone in 3 days from that.
In case you are unaware, I haven't mentioned it so far in this story since it is a non-factor, but during the pre-merge, the players who were going to Exile Island formed a cross-tribal alliance consisting of Taj, Brendan, Sierra, and Steven. Now that they are all together, they pull in JT to join them. However, JT lies to Brendan. Long story short, the Exile Alliance is already in the process of falling apart due to bad communication, and nothing will really happen with them. Later on, JT is talking with Steven a one-on-one where he catches Steven up on what Brendan said about throwing his game for JT, and I think Steven speaks for all of us when he says,
He said he wants me in the finals.
Why would he want that?
He likes me a lot.
But that's crazy.
I do need to mention something else crazy that happened this episode, as at the beginning of it, Coach told everyone this story. Now, it didn't have anything to do with Steven, but since him and JT talk about it, it becomes relevant. This story the coach tells is about the time he was kayaking in the Amazon and is kidnapped by the locals who tie him to a stake and beat him. Almost no one believes it, and in Coach's story, I do a dramatic reading of the whole thing, but for this story, it is important to know that Coach was fairly credible before, but after this tale, everyone is questioning if he's even legit or not.
Yeah, he's crazy. He is somewhat crazy. I think that story about him being captured on the Amazon, that's just hard to believe.
That is pretty hard to believe.
At Tribal Council, Jeff asks about JT, and Taj says that this guy is a triple threat of perfection, really painting an unintentional target on his back.
JT is fast, he's a lovable person, he's like a triple threat because you just can't find anything wrong with him.
In the end, the plan works perfectly as Brendan is voted out in a 4-3-2 split vote.
Brendan, job spoken.
It is now episode 10, and let's move on to the reward challenge where Steven loses and JT sends him to exile to make sure there are no new idols, since Brendan and the idol he possessed is now gone and could be re-hidden in the game. However, at exile there are no new idols, just another clue to the idols that have already been found, and now Steven has to suffer living there with absolutely no purpose.
I'm here for nothing.
Back at camp, it is important to know that Tyson won the first 2 individual immunity challenges following the merge, and he came super close to winning the third that happened in this episode. So Steven has a wild thought. Let's just vote out Tyson, which is incredibly risky since he is part of this new alliance, but Taj, Aaron, and JT all agree.
I think we might just take out Tyson. We might not get another chance. That's true. I mean, this is like the time. It's like opportunities knocking. What the hell are we, I know. I think it's going to be Tyson. It might be our only chance.
We're doing it. That's a big move.
Steven's basic thought here is that he wants Tyson gone to avoid one player going on a crazy immunity run that gets them to the end of the game, and he says this happens every season, which is untrue, but we do know where he's getting at with saying this. And he says instead of Tyson, let's make it someone else. Keep that in mind for later, it's quite prophetic.
It happens every season someone goes on a run. Let's make it you.
While discussing whether to vote out Tyson or Sierra next, we learn that JT is not very fond of her at all, as he says this.
Sierra is a lying bitch, and I hate her.
I hate her too.
I want to get her away from my face too.
A rare villainous moment for our beloved hero. So she must really suck to get that reaction from him, according to the story we're seeing here. Coach then talks to JT and says we are good to vote out Sierra and keep the Warrior Alliance strong, right? Which has JT saying, of course, as he shakes Coach's hand, knowing that this is not going to happen.
I know I can trust you, and that's so important to me, man.
You have my word. There you go. It's really gonna crush Coach.
At Tribal Council, Coach is unintentionally setting himself up for some heartbreak, as when he talks about JT, he says this is a man of honor who he can trust no matter what.
The first time I looked in JT's eyes and I shook his hand, I knew that where he comes from, that meant something. And I see honesty and trust, and I see a warrior in battle. That's somebody, obviously, that I respect and I believe 100% when he tells me something.
Time is blindsided in a 5-3 vote, totally betraying Coach and Debbie as well.
Tyson, the tribe's spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 11 starts with Coach and Debbie in a haze of confusion. They pretend like, wow, that was a brilliant move you guys made when you blindsided us. But Steven doesn't like this because of course they're being disingenuous.
It was a good move, guys. And I appreciate you not telling me.
Bold and brilliant tonight, guys.
So basically anything we had done was the greatest thing that had ever been accomplished. What a tremendous blindside. It worried me a little bit because I would rather have an honest blowout than have people smiling saccharine smiles at me and plotting something else.
This turns out to be more true than he knows, as when Coach and Debbie are alone, Debbie is raging mad about being blindsided and says they need to do something about JT, Steven, and Taj because those 3 could take over this game, meaning she wants to get them out. Steven goes on to win the reward challenge and he gets to pick 2 people to join him, so he chooses JT and Taj. Coach says that's cool that he picked them, he still trusts Steven. While on said reward, the Jalapao 3 talk and Steven says we should keep Coach around since he is a weak player in this game, but Debbie is a strong threat. JT says he agrees and Sierra should go next.
I mean, our next move is obviously Sierra, right? Because Coach is really secure right now with us.
I think so.
Upon returning back from the reward, something big went down while they were gone because Coach talks to JT and tells him how Sierra and Debbie tried to reform the Timbir Alliance, but he said no. While Sierra talks to Steven and says Coach and Debbie tried to reform the Timbir Alliance, but she said no. Sounds pretty similar, doesn't it? JT is not sure who he should believe, and neither does Steven.
There's a lot of stories being told, a lot of paranoia setting in. I don't know what's going on, so I've got a lot to think about now.
Now, not long after that, to prove a point, Sierra picks a fight with Coach and Debbie and says, admit it, you are the one lying, not me. Which Coach and Debbie just deny. When Steven and JT talk to each other and piece together the facts, they realize that Sierra has to be the one telling the truth, and they are correct.
I think Sierra just caught Coach in a lie.
Yeah.
It sounds like they actually approached her about, let's take out Jalapao, and she said no.
Despite Sierra telling the truth and Steven knowing it, it is decided that keeping Coach and Debbie happy is better for his end game than siding with Sierra, so she is voted out in a 4-2 to 1 vote.
Sierra, the tribe has spoken. Time to go.
Episode 12 begins, and apparently Debbie is driving JT and Steven up the wall, since they both say how much she bugs them, with Steven even doing a pretty funny impression of her.
Hey there. Do you think the shelter's Sunday? Is it gonna rain today?
I think it's clearing up.
The reward challenge is actually the infamous Survivor auction, and in a deal that requires Taj to go to Exile Island where her husband will join her, everyone else gets a loved one's visit back at camp. We see JT with his little sister, and she cries when she sees him, and he does his best to contain his outer emotions. While she is there, he shows her one of the snacks he has been eating and offers her one, to which she is disgusted by.
What is that? Corn jatoba. You can make tortillas out of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here, try it.
After the loved ones leave, we learn what exactly JT's philosophy is when it comes to talking to and strategizing with Coach. And actually, it's quite simple. Since JT knows he is many steps ahead, and Coach is a simple man at heart, he just tells him whatever he wants to hear, since Coach continually pushes for Taj to be voted out, and JT knows that is not happening anytime soon.
I feel like I'm really a few steps ahead of Coach when it comes to strategy. I tell him what he wants to hear at this point to make it look like I'm on the same page he's on, when in turn, we're not really on the same page right now.
Debbie decides it is time to go hard on flipping on Coach. The writing is on the wall for him and her, and she wants to have no part of that. So she offers JT and Steven a final 3 deal where if they take her to the final 3, she will just let them go to final tribal, even if she accidentally wins final immunity. She says she will just hand final immunity over to JT. She'll just roll right on over for them. A lucrative offer to be sure, but Steven isn't too sure if he can trust her, so he may need to vote her out instead.
You cannot really trust anybody's promises out here. I don't know Debbie that well. I've known her for 10 days. I don't know her personal relationship with God or what her swears to God mean.
She's throwing Coach under the bus right now, and they've been tight since day one. You gotta watch out for people like that.
This is a lucrative offer, but definitely a hard one to believe that is real, right? They haven't known her that long after all, but what else is new? She wouldn't be the first player to want to throw everything away to benefit JT. Coach then comes to talk to JT and Steven, where he lays another editing hint as to what we should be expecting as an audience.
You guys realize I'm just going to tell you this right now? I'm just going to throw a reality check on you. One of us 3 is going to win it.
Back at camp, he is pretty happy with how things have gone since the merge. Sure, they lost Joe, but despite being down 6-3, Timbira has fractured and self-destructed, and the Jalapao 3 have been able to take advantage of this pretty easily. Him and JT even talk about how easy it has been, and they are blown away by how all this is playing out.
No one wants to vote us out.
I don't know why not, neither.
I know, they all know that we're sort of running things. If everyone wants to get on our good side.
At Tribal Council, it is determined that Debbie is too big a threat to keep around anymore, and she is eliminated in a 4-1-1 split.
Debbie, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 13 begins, and Coach was not in on that last vote. Steven and JT play it off like they saved him because Debbie was gunning for Coach, which is half true. She did say let's vote off Coach, but that is not why they voted her out. Coach is absolutely relieved by all this though, and buys this lie hook, line, and sinker.
You know who wrote your name down, right? What?
Debbie wanted us to send you home tonight.
I was like, wow. JT, Aaron, and Taj, and Steven mounted a counterattack against Debbie to save me.
You have to be asking yourself, how does Coach trust JT at this point? He's just been blindsided by him twice. But that is just the power of JT's social game. No one cares that he's a threat despite knowing that he's a threat. They just want him to like them. At this point in the game, everyone has been to Exile Island, some more than others, as Taj has gone 4 times and Steven has gone 3. Only Coach and JT have avoided it, who are still left in the game, and at this point there may only be 1 trip left to the island happening, and Coach does not want it to be him. All of a sudden, Coach has 1,000 reasons that he's telling JT and Steven as to why he can't go. All of them either seem made up or exaggerated, and Steven isn't buying any of it, while JT says, who cares? Coach is being voted off next anyways.
JT and I are eager to send Coach to exile. He has been so skittish about it. He has been selling out everyone, trying to get them to go to exile before him.
Coach, he's just really scared to go to exile. And such an adventurous, soulless coach shouldn't really be scared to go to exile. So, I'm ready to test him. And also, we plan on sending Coach home in the next tribal council.
Now at the reward challenge, JT wins, but it was close as Coach was on his tail the whole time. So much for his physical ailments holding him back. He sends Coach to exile, which will be very overdramatic. Watch Coach's story video for all of that wonderfulness. And JT picks Steven to go with him on the reward. Now on that reward, we do get a real aw shucks kind of moment as JT tells us he has always dreamed about being on a private plane.
I just really soaked it up. That's always been a dream of mine, to have a private plane or to be able to fly in one like that, and it was really awesome.
They finally arrive and it is luxurious. Now you probably wouldn't take one look at JT and think to yourself, now there's a man who enjoys good showers. But for JT, they can be pretty wild.
Oh man, can't get enough of this soap. 34 days, I have not washed my nasty tail.
That night, him and Steven raise a glass to celebrate their accomplishments so far, and hey, they are now up on Timbira 3-2. Who would have saw this coming, with Coach and Aaron still not wanting to work with each other? What luck. Here it is to the final two.
Cheers.
To the final two in this game.
Final two.
At the immunity challenge, Coach is truly at his peak overdramatic self and acts like he is in the worst shape ever, but loves it. Cut to them competing and somehow it comes down to only JT and Coach for the win, and in another overdramatic move, Coach collapses, and JT does win.
Coach steps down. JT has won individual immunity.
Oh my God, man.
Back at camp, Coach asks JT if Aaron is going and whether any surprises will be happening at Tribal Council or not. Of course, JT and Steven just tells him exactly what he wants to hear.
I mean, I'm just asking, right? I mean, there's not going to be any surprises tonight, right? No. I'm done with the surprises at Tribal, man.
At Tribal Council, Coach is surprised in a 3-2 vote that actually sees JT voting with Coach, but he knew Coach was being voted out no matter what, so that's why he did it.
Coach, the tribe has spoken.
It is finale time. JT versus Steven versus Taj versus Aaron. Who will go to the final two and convince the jury that they are worthy of the title of Sole Survivor? Let's find out. Right away, JT takes a moment to reflect upon the great accomplishment of the Jalapao 3. They got to the end under incredible odds, and him and Steven really led the way for that.
It's hard to believe that I'm still here, Final Four. There's a huge feeling of accomplishment, especially for me, Steven, and Todd. The remaining three Jalapao are here in the Final Four together.
However, danger is afoot for JT, whether he knows it or not. Right away, Steven and Taj acknowledge that if they are going to reach the final two and have a shot to win, JT has to go.
You know, if JT loses immunity, ... Wow. I don't know.
This is really the first time all game anyone's even mentioned JT as a target. So JT's neck is all of a sudden on the line, but Steven's prophetic words about someone going on an immunity run each season keep ringing true as JT secures himself his second individual immunity win.
JT wins immunity!
I'm so close.
Once again, JT is safe at Tribal Council.
Back at camp, Steven says, I am pretty sure we can beat Aaron in an immunity challenge, but Taj is a stronger threat, plus the jury is bound to like her more. Now may be the right time to turn on her. Plus, Steven is worried that Taj would take JT over him to the final two. Either way, Steven is right and JT says no matter what, he will stick with him.
We're definitely reassuring Taj that Aaron's going home, and Aaron may be going home. We're not sure on what we're going to do tonight, but Steven and I are going to stick together on whatever decision we make.
At Tribal Council, it is decided that Taj's threat to JT and Steven winning it all is too large and they vote her out 3-1.
Taj, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
It's a big risk, so let's see if it pays off. After Tribal Council, we hear from JT about how hard it was to vote out Taj and how he really didn't want to betray her at all. He says the ramifications of his actions are already annoying him.
I'm already suffering the consequences because Erin is the most annoying person I know in the world, and she will not shut up.
The next day, Aaron is talking to Steven and says, I want you at the final two with me, and he says ditto on that, which cannot be good for JT at all.
I already have my decision made if I win. I'm taking Steven with me. It's the choice that's going to give me the best chance of winning.
That would be the best decision for the both of them since no one has a shot against JT. But this decision is not as easy to make as what it seems like it would be on paper. Steven is slightly afraid to win immunity because he would be in a real moral conundrum.
Do I take JT to the final two, my friend, ally, you know, the person who I'm closest with in this game, or do I take Aaron,
who I'm not even particularly fond of, but who I have a very good shot of winning $1 million against.
Prior to the immunity challenge, JT promises Steven that no matter what, he will take him to the final two, and Steven promises JT the same thing. At the immunity challenge, it gets intense as Aaron is the first to drop out, so it becomes JT versus Steven. Whoever wins gets to pick who they sit next to at the final tribal council. So what happens?
Steven drops out. JT wins final immunity and a guaranteed spot in the final two.
Back at camp, all those talks with Aaron start to haunt Steven as she immediately rats him out for what he said to her, and JT is slightly offended by all of this. JT then talks to Steven and essentially asks, hey, Aaron told me this thing, is it true? Steven lies, and once again we see he isn't very good at lying, especially when it comes to lying to JT.
I mean, she told me you would have took her.
That's not true, you know that.
I hope so.
At tribal council, Jeff is asking Steven and Aaron why they should go to the final two over the other person, and Steven lays out his case, which is partially an emotional one, and something that hasn't happened until this episode is Jeff making Steven look dumb in front of the whole jury.
And you know, I gotta admit, when you weigh $1 million versus a breakfast with your 39-day friend, you're right, that's a tough one. Aaron, you might be best off saying nothing at all. Steven might be making a better case for you than you can make for yourself.
Damn.
Jeff is going really hard on Steven here, but in the end, JT stays true to his alliance with Steven and votes out Aaron.
Aaron, the tribe has spoken.
It is now the final day of the game, and JT and Steven get to celebrate with their breakfast that Steven has been craving, and what is said next is still true as of the time of this video.
So you and I are gonna be friends for life. It's hugely satisfying to be here with JT at the end.
Prior to final tribal council, we hear from JT once more, who says that who knew at the beginning of this game that him and Steven would become great friends. The close bond they built together is proof that you should never judge a book by its cover.
We gotta change for the better. You know, don't judge a book by its cover, obviously, and don't go off first impressions. Outside of the country guy and the city guy, you know, when it comes down to it, we're a lot alike.
It is time. Final tribal council. Will the jury choose the easy win in JT, who has charmed them all with his social game, or will Steven be given credit as the brains of the Jalapao 3 alliance that ended up running the game? Let's find out. JT starts off with a good opening speech that includes him reminding everyone he is a poor cattle rancher who is the first in his family to graduate college, but he is definitely not looking for any pity votes. He says he got to this point in the game by working hard and sticking his neck out, and yet despite sticking his neck out and everyone knowing that he's a threat, he received 0 votes against him all game. He tells the jury he feels like he made friends with them all, and he picks Steven to go to the end because he felt like Steven deserved it more than Aaron, who he knew he could easily beat if he had brought her.
I'm obviously not a Yale graduate or English major or anything. My buddy Steven here. I'm actually the first person in my family to ever graduate college. And to make friends with you guys, I mean, it was very hard to vote you guys out. The way we picked who we voted off was the people that we thought were going to vote us off. And hadn't we not gotten rid of you, you'd be sitting where I'm at today, and I'd be over there, there's no doubt about it.
What JT says here comes across as noble and honorable, and the jury eats it right up, which is really the most important thing. Brendan is the first juror to ask a question, and he basically tells Steven that him growing in this game is not as valuable to him, as JT just straight up dominating everything from start to finish. JT even chimes in on this and dunks on Steven.
You know, JT is an amazing outdoorsman. I came in with none of these skills. I still persevered and will be leaving the game with many of them.
Growth is irrelevant, really. I mean, that's something you can carry home with you. That's something that's good for you personally, but obviously, you know, if you go to a football game and just because it was harder for you to catch the ball and you catch it, doesn't make it better than the person that already knew how to catch it.
Aaron is next, and this is very telling about where she is as a juror, as she asks a question that completely pins Steven with guilt for betraying all of his alliances, and somehow Aaron ignores how JT did the same exact thing to the same people. It's secretly brilliant somehow.
Almost everyone in every one of those alliances is on the jury. So should I just vote for JT?
Debbie is third, and she asks JT who he really is, since she thought he was great until he turned on her. He uses a great emotional tactic that works wonders on Debbie, who is a mother herself.
Debbie, I'll be honest with you. When I come into this game, my mother told me, do not believe what everybody tells you. You're gonna have to lie to win this game.
Coach is fourth, and he asked JT how he lived up to being the noble warrior. And JT says that he stuck to his word with Coach. Not true at all, but he focuses on that one time that he did stay true to his word when he voted for Aaron like he said he would, even though he knew Coach was going home. JT even says he would have been proud of Coach sitting next to him at Final 2, and he's really stroking Coach's ego in just the perfect way, while also playing victim to Steven.
Because I knew you'd have taken me to the Final 2. I thought Steven would, but I just found out otherwise.
Sierra is next, and JT's answer to her question almost has zero effect since she straight up just burns Steven.
And for JT, what does taking the strongest really mean to you? Because you're standing with one of the weakest players I've ever seen.
Tyson is next to last, and he is ready to provoke a fight as he asks JT if Steven was an asset to him getting to the end of the game. JT says he was, but he could have gotten to the end without Steven. Now, JT could be right, we'll never know for sure, but I think his answer is underselling Steven a lot. Steven was a lot more valuable than JT's letting on, but this is Final Tribal Council, and the goal is to win the million, not to make your partner in crime look good.
Could I do it without him? I feel like I could have made this adventure without him, but I don't think it would have been near as easy.
Steven, you want to reply to that?
Taj is the last juror, and she asked why voting her out seemed just so easy for JT and Steven. And JT says that is actually not the case at all. Voting for Taj was extremely hard for him. In fact, it was the hardest vote he made all game.
Taj, there was nothing effortless about putting your name down. The hardest vote I made in this game was voting you out. Taj, I've stuck my neck out for you this whole game as well as you for me. We've been like brother and sister. I mean, it was almost harder than my vote last night.
Now, for perspective, Steven never gains any traction at all during this Final Tribal Council, and if you watch his video, you see how he tries and just fails with multiple different tactics. It is so clear who the jury favors, and JT does put on a great Final Tribal Council performance as a result. We then cut to the live show, and for the first time in Survivor history, we see the bow wrapped up on a perfect game.
First vote, JT. Second vote, the Warrior, JT. JT, the winner of Survivor
So let's break this down. How is JT Thomas as a character? JT was a good old country boy that played the role perfectly while secretly being much smarter than he let on. A bit like Big Tom in Survivor Africa, but toned down with his craziness and not sexist or racist at all. Which is great, of course. He made friends with pretty much everyone, including a lifelong bromance with Steven, who became an unlikely duo to not only be best friends, but run the game top to bottom. Aside from his spat with Spencer, JT really didn't do much in the way of villainy all game outside of game moves. The fact that he could betray many of the Timbira people and yet they still loved him and voted for him speaks wonders about the kind of guy he was on a 24/7 basis at camp. This is one of those rare instances I would have liked to see longer episodes to get a better idea as to how he wooed so many people in such a quick fashion. Somehow only 2 episodes into the merge and everyone is head over heels for him. It doesn't make complete sense, but it is hard to not like the guy watching this season. Out of 33 character moments shown on the show, 20 were heroic and 13 were villainous, making JT Thomas a hero character on Survivor Tocantins. Now, how is JT Thomas as a strategist? A lot of this assessment ties into the character sections since pretty much how JT won was with wonderful social gameplay. Not one person on this cast put a vote against him all game, even while everyone knew he was a massive target. He thankfully walked into the merge down in numbers even though he didn't want to do that, because it helped make the collapse of Timbira happen. There was a divide in their tribe, and JT and Steven took full advantage every chance they got. And JT and Steven cannot be undersold here. Those two together were like peanut butter and jelly. They were just perfect. They learned how to convince everyone to do their bidding and play the jury like a fiddle, but somehow JT was able to avoid all the backlash while Steven received all of it in return for making the same moves. All in all, a brilliant performance that would be hard to replicate again in any newbie season of the show. Out of 55 strategic moments shown on the show, 47 were smart and 8 were dumb, making JT Thomas a smart strategist on Survivor Tocantins. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.